Welcome to the groundbreaking news program that delves into the heart of Mormonism, your weekly window into the unique intersection of news, history, and culture that resonates with the tapestry of Mormonism. So whether you're tuning in from the heart of Utah or joining us from around the world, your favorite news program starts now, where news meets insight and the stories of our faith unfold.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mormon Newscast. Today's date, Rebecca, is September 9th, 2024. See how easy it is?
You make it look effortless.
See, the great ones make it look easy. I'm happy to be joined tonight by Bill Reel.
How are you?
And Rebecca Biblioteca. How are you both tonight?
Excellent.
I'm fabulous, and I would like to give a little shout out and say we love you, Nemo. I'm just throwing that out there into the universe.
Why are you saying I love you, Nemo?
Well, I think most people know, or if you don't know, he's received some news from his ecclesiastical leaders that he has to attend sort of a procedural, however you want to say it. Anyway, he just had some news, so we'll see what happens. I don't think we need to go into it on the newscast, but
not where he eats, but where he is eaten. He will be surgically removed from the body of the church politic.
Yes.
So what's going on? Now, I understand that it was, he received this yesterday upon his arrival home from work with shining morning face, and then he gets delivered and served this letter. And it's a hearing, I don't even know what they call it anymore. Is it a love fest that's scheduled at 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, September 23rd? Is that correct?
Is it a membership council?
Yeah.
It's something, but the letter, I've read it, I haven't seen many of them, but it had all kinds of places for signatures, consent, and to sign. It looked like a legal document. I think
they're going to try and break the Guinness Book record on number of signatures.
Yeah.
On a court document.
I was surprised.
Nothing, huh? It's September 9th. It's the 100th birthday of President Nelson. Was there not, Rebecca?
We've been celebrating it all day. Are you kidding? I can't even
was there not
anymore.
A record that was broken in conjunction with his birthday and signatures?
No, there was not. And you're going to talk about that as you go into your story. There was technically, but there was little help.
It's already been certified, codified, if you will.
I don't know. We'll have to get into it to see what you're talking about.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it then. And we'll see what it is that Rebecca's trying to hide from us. All right. The top stories today are, hang on a second. There we go. President Nelson's 100th birthday. That's today, September 9th, 1924. A bouncing baby boy was born, and his name was... That's what heaven sounded like when he left, and they said, we've got at least 100 years free of this guy. So President Nelson's 100th birthday is today. Heretic, the movie, the much anticipated movie because of Hugh Grant, and Sister Missionaries, coming out in November. Apparently, it's been seen by people who have connections, and some reviews are available. Also, SLMW, which is difficult to pronounce, but I think it stands for Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Spicy premiere. Should that have an E at the end of the premiere?
It probably should. I don't know why.
Have an E, is that a political office? Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay.
No, there typically is. It's like the E at the end of potato.
Yes. That's how I learned to drop the E at the end of potato. It was back in the 1980s.
Dan Quayle.
Undercover cop. The last story, this will be by Bill Reel. We'll be covering undercover cop in Mormon. Is that supposed to be country? I'm sorry. Is it county?
Mormon County.
It is Mormon County. Okay.
It is Mormon County.
You're just spell checking everybody, aren't you?
Well, no, it's you're the only one who's made a mistake so far tonight. So I'm sorry. I was trying to even it out by getting Bill in there.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go to Happy Birthday, President Nelson. And Rebecca, since you do a wonderful impression of a certain Hollywood star, could you sing just a few bars of this for our audience?
You know what? I already did, and I put the clip in. If you forward it,
you didn't. You dodged it. You never sang it.
Because I would never sing it all the way. I consider it a little bit
disrespectful. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. And you know the voice.
I know, but can you just play my clip instead? I think that's much better. It's much more politically correct. Can you fast forward? There you go. Play that. This is where they tried to get me to do it before. Everybody's trying to get me to do this.
weren't you going to sing a song for President
my God.
Nelson?
I was
A
kidding.
Marilyn
I never
Monroe
really
version or something like that?
No, behind the scenes, I was joking about, doing happy birthday, but I'm not going to do it.
You didn't do it.
President Nelson, but that would be really inappropriate. So I'm not going to do it. See, I have decorum.
Okay. Well, I almost did it myself, but I think it would be
Exactly.
bringing the house down if I did it.
I'm wondering if anybody even knows what that is. It's a famous
Everybody
Marilyn
knows what
Monroe
that is.
song sung to President Kennedy. That's right. And I just thought, you could say President Nelson. You could do that. And maybe there could be a cake that you spring out of. I don't know.
We talked about that.
We did
talked
talk about that.
getting a cake, smuggling it in there, everything that was necessary for Rebecca Biblioteca to pop out of the pop out of the cake on the stage where they were having this.
Wow.
And you would have gone down in history. You would have taken Jonathan Streeter's place.
I might have. I don't know. It's a good thing it didn't happen.
Well, on September 9th, 1924, by the way, I'm banking on Rebecca for the accuracy of this statement.
Yep.
The Statue of Liberty was declared a national monument, and President Russel M. Nelson was born. So I think the Statue of Liberty was about 78 years old at that point, but
it was still copper colored.
Mm-hmm.
Statue of Liberty.
Was it? Well, it was 78 years old, so I don't know. I wasn't around, or if I was, I can't remember with specificity the color back in 1924. But there's the thing where you didn't sing the song.
There we go. That's
and
right.
Here's the birthday invitation that went out 100 days before his 100th birthday on September 9th. President Nelson posted a message on social media highlighting the parable of the lost sheep, where Jesus uses the number 100 to teach about love and service. Though 99 of his flock were safely by his side, the shepherd went in search of the one who was lost, President Nelson explained in a June 1st social media post. At age 99, I have no need of physical gifts. But one spiritual offering that would brighten my life is for each of us to reach out to the one in our lives who may be feeling lost or alone. And if this is anything like his #GiveThanks program from about 3 years ago, everybody in the church did this except for President Nelson and the apostles. Let's see. Oh,
I was going to say, I did hear reports of people, because I hang out with a lot of nuanced Mormons and post-Mormons. I did hear reports that there was kind of an uptick in people being friendly, reaching out, heart attacks on doors, if you know what that is. So I think people were taking it to heart. And also I read that there were many, many people who went to the temple and did 100 ordinances. That was another way that they were trying to celebrate by giving service in the temple.
I would have rather just signed a stupid card. So birthday card world's record. 31,000 people sign birthday card for LDS president and break a world record. Now, Rebecca wants to dispute whether that record's actually been broken, but we'll give her a chance here after I read this article. Salt Lake City, it's ABC for Rebecca. Ahead of Latter-day Saint President Russel M. Nelson's 100th birthday, more than 31,000 people signed a birthday card for him in Salt Lake City on Saturday, and this was August 4th. So, okay, on Saturday. Breaking a Guinness World Record. According to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a total of 31,384 people signed a birthday card for President Nelson in the Salt Palace Convention Center during a conference for young adults in the church. A representative for Guinness World Records gave a document. See, there's a document, Rebecca. Gave a document to a local church leader to certify that the record for most contributions to a greeting card had been broken, the church said. So do you think this isn't true?
No, I think it is true. The idea was that at this conference, a young adult conference, everybody would flock and sign the card, and they would meet the required number of signatures to break the record. But that night, the night after the conference, go to the next slide.
I will.
This is what I personally received in my email, and a lot of other people received, and it says urgent. It was an urgent message from my stake. So I took note because, we've talked about this before in the newscast. I thought it was some humanitarian need. Maybe something was happening in the neighborhood. Maybe there was a crisis.
Whenever there's an urgent email in the stake, your name is usually in the subject line.
That's exactly right. It's all about me. I don't think anyone knows I'm in my stake. Anyway, I looked at this email and it said, urgent. We didn't get enough signatures at the young adult conference. Please, everybody needs to sign. And it goes on and gives you a link and tells you what to do. So
we already got the document and everything saying that we broke the record, but we didn't.
Right. Well, I think they did, but it's just a question of, are you voluntarily signing, or has somebody sort of told you we've really got to do this? It's absolutely urgent. And also, please share this with everyone you know. So that's my only question. Is it a spontaneous outpouring of goodwill and cheer, or is it an urgent email with urgency telling that you have to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't mess with those Guinness guys reporting you broke a record and then having to tell them later, well, sorry, I guess we didn't.
Exactly. But look at the graphic on the right. It breaks down 100 years. That's pretty shocking.
Did you check the math, Rebecca?
What was that?
Did you check the math?
I did not check the math. I was just trusting Google.
Google did it? Okay.
Yes, it wasn't me.
So 100 years is 10 decades old. That was the big surprise for me. The thing that I didn't know, 3 billion seconds old.
Yep.
That's a lot of seconds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of seconds going on.
What's interesting
a quarter till noon, quarter till midnight. Go ahead.
What's interesting is the church has more money in its investment funds than the number of seconds by a lot, by an exponential number, more billions than seconds he's lived. So.
Make it 50 times.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you could have 50 President Nelson celebrating their 100th birthday, and the number of seconds in all of their lives would still be less than what the church has in dollars in the Inside Peak account. Wow, what a great observation, Mr. Reel.
Mind-boggling.
And now the birthday becomes a state day. Today is September 9th, and I think it's just for today. With a little help from God, maybe it'll be a regular recurring annual holiday, and we'll get some more time off school and government jobs and everything. Utah Governor Spencer Cox declares Russel Nelson Day as LDS leader turns 100. That was a lot easier to get through than MLK Day in Utah, wasn't it? Russel Nelson has become the first prophet president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to reach 100 years old. To mark the faith leader's momentous birthday Monday, Utah Governor Spencer Cox issued a proclamation declaring September 9th, 2024, so it seems to be specific to this year, President Russel M. Nelson Day, to honor the church president's dedication to kindness, love, and welcoming spirit. So I hope you enjoy that. If you're in Utah, there's only about 6 hours left of what may be the one and only Russel M. Nelson Day, so you better get out there and enjoy it while you can.
And make sure that you read the updates to the handbook to enjoy that kindness, love, and welcoming spirit that the day is supposed to embody too.
You know, you're right. Midnight can not come fast enough, can it? Okay, so the birthday broadcast, President Russel M. Nelson's 100th birthday commemoration. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Gosh, you know, entire populations died just when somebody's reading that name out loud. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there goes another one, welcomes all to view a special birthday broadcast in honor of Church President Russel M. Nelson on Monday, September 9th, 2024, his 100th birthday at 4:00 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. I watched it. I watched that, and the parts that I couldn't watch because I had something else I had to do, I went back and I watched it. I think it was 75 minutes long. Lots of people were there. Lots of people did videotaped messages. A few people spoke live. President Nelson was able to be there present personally on the stage. He also did a videotaped message, which had been recorded back, I think, a month or so ago or something.
Just in case.
You can't be too careful at a time like this. Well, you think this guy can see around corners or something? So we've got a situation. He does his, and Elder Holland did a recorded message early on. Elder Oaks and Elder Eyring, the two counselors, they did something together. It's always a little bit dangerous with Oaks when you're doing something with him and another apostle. Strange things can slip out, which might be regretted later, like back when he did that one with M. Russell Ballard. You remember that one, Bill, back in 2017. We're still using clips from that. And actually, there's a clip from this one, because believe it or not, President Eyring, when he's talking with Elder Oaks, President Oaks, about what a great, great guy President Nelson is and how wonderful it has been to work with him, serve with him, do all manner of things with him for the past 6.5 years. They talked about temples And Eyring tells us what it is. September 9th, up to date, absolutely hot off the press. He's going to tell us that the temple building, which presumably would include spires, that's not what's important. What's important are the covenants that we make inside the temple. So here's something else for certain appellate briefs.
It does seem, by the way, I'll just say really quick, it does seem strange that in the midst of all of this legal debate, he says this, doesn't it?
I think he got rid of his beard. What happened to President Eyring? Didn't he used to have a beard?
A beard?
I don't think President Eyring ever had a
He's
beard.
never had a beard, but for some reason, when I'm looking at the still shot, he looks like a guy who's had a beard his whole life, and he just shaved it, and he doesn't look anything like I remember him.
Well, that's because he's not crying. If he was crying, you'd see it. That's the
true.
difference.
Well, he'll work himself to it.
And just one more little note. Elder Holland did not look good, and I don't think Elder Oaks looks that good either. They both look like death swarming over, no offense.
Like 90-something-year-old men?
Yeah. Well, here it is.
But the degree to which President Nelson has done it, and he's done it on a spiritual basis of saying we've got to offer the covenants to people that are far away from temples. It's the ordinances that make the difference. Let's not be extravagant. Let's make the buildings lovely. It's the ordinances to make them available. But the degree to which
That just looped around.
Just pause while I forward that to a few people. Just a
Do
minute.
that, would you? Because that was Elder Oaks. We had to cut him off at the end where he says, I am going to have to come across there and slap you upside the head, Hank.
Nobody gets the memo.
We talked about this. You're not supposed to mention this.
Yep. They didn't
Oh
get
my
the memo.
God.
I've never seen I've never seen somebody with their eyes are all, his eyes are all pink and like around not the eye itself, like the inside the glass. Maybe it's the glasses, I guess. Maybe he's got tinted glasses,
Rose
like
colored.
Smith used to have. Yeah.
Have they legalized marijuana down there in Utah yet?
Medical use here in
Medical
Utah.
use, but you can drive to any state around, and
You can pay $100 and complain about a cleft lip and anything, you can get it. No big
He's
deal.
got people to do that for him.
Yeah.
I cannot picture any of the apostles smoking a doobie more easily and readily than I can President Eyring. He looks like he's jonesing a bit right there in that video clip. Okay, so is there anything else that we have to? Oh, yes, we got some clips. These are something that Rebecca, she snapped these from the actual celebration as it was going on. And you can see, you get President Eyring is in the middle of the 5 big chairs, the beanbag chairs that they have here. And to his right, I'll go from one end to the other, from near to far. By the way, who's this guy singing? Is that Wayne Newton?
Yeah. That was the vocalist, I think, from before. I think Pacheco. It could be Wayne Newton, but what happened is after all the, the glowing affirmations toward him and the videos and the children saying in different languages, happy birthday, they had the audience rise and balloons fell. Not too many, but enough balloons fell. And the audience all sang a very sort of dirge-like happy birthday. It's kind of, sometimes when there's a big group, it's a little slower than normal.
Yes.
So but they seem to enjoy the balloons. If you look at the next couple of slides, President Nelson gets into it. And
I want to see that. That could be Paul Anka. The amazing thing was they actually got Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks to come out and do their famous skit, The 2,000-Year-Old Man.
No one knows who that is.
Well, if you look it up, you can see it on YouTube.
Exactly.
Still funny after all these years. He does kind of look like a young Paul Anka, maybe singing My Way in honor of President Nelson. I just figured out what they're doing there with the 5 chairs. It would be boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, except for the fact that, President Eyring doesn't have a girl to sit next to him anymore. Yeah. He could have had somebody from his family, some daughter, some granddaughter, but no, they're going to make him look like the Maytag repairman sitting all by himself there in the middle. And the other guys have their wives with them, but not poor President. See, this is why I can picture him with a doobie. He's got to be sad. He needs his spirits lifted. Here's a few other things. Okay. And
that's President Nelson. He's hitting the balloon.
Oh, he's getting into the spirit of things. How nice. A yellow balloon. And it looks like President Eyring is bending over to grab one. Okay, wonderful. And everybody's clapping. And now we're back a bit further. Yeah. You can see the back of some heads with all the balloons down there. Is there any special meaning to the color of the balloons. It looks like there's purple and blue and yellow, and maybe some white, green a little. Nothing.
I can't, green and gold ball, but it's not just green and gold, so I don't know.
Well, there it is, and they had it in the theater instead of having it in the big General Conference Center. I don't know why they didn't have it in the big General Conference Center, but they chose to have it here in a smaller venue. And ages of presidents of the church. By the way, without looking, and Rebecca, you haven't looked at any of these, have you?
I've looked at all of them because
have you looked at none? Have you looked at none, Bill?
I haven't looked at any of them.
Don't look at it. Don't look at them now. Okay. What president served the longest period as president of the church?
I would go with Brigham Young.
And most people would. David
O.
Brigham Young, long time. And of course, who was it who almost was president as long as Brigham Young? David O. McKay, right?
How about Joseph Smith? How long was he in there? 30 to 44, 14. Not good enough. That's not going to cut it.
No, because John Taylor. You can blame John Taylor for that. If it weren't for John Taylor, Joseph Smith would still be the president of the church. No, but the surprise is, no, it's actually neither of those two. It's George Albert.
Right.
George Albert Smith, he smoked them both at 26 years as president of the church. He was president from right after World War I was over until World War II was almost over. So he wins that. So that you can wow your friends and family at the next, I don't know, Mormon trivia party. And then there's a few others. You got Russel Nelson. Now he's 100 years old.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
You said George Albert Smith. I think you mean Heber J. Grant.
I meant Heber J. Grant.
Yeah. George Albert Smith was president for 5 years and 10 months.
He was right after him. Exactly.
It was the Depression. Right.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. And I'm glad you did that so that you've corrected it. So I don't have to come back.
We all make mistakes.
Myself. Boy, and I make a lot of them.
Can I make one point? I think it's interesting that RFM told me that in the last couple of days, you had a conversation with me independently and a conversation with Bill independently about the idea of God choosing the next prophet by having the prior prophet pass away. You know, I mean, you hear jokes like, what did poor Howard W. Hunter do, right? Because he was only in for 9 months. Or Harold B. Lee, only in for a year and 5 months. It is kind of an interesting idea. And we talked about the concept of, keeping someone alive with extreme measures when isn't it God's will to kind of select the next prophet by this natural process of the prior prophet dying? I don't know. I thought it was interesting that you talked to both of us about that.
Yeah, it is. The problem is with God, you never know when he's serious. He's always playing around. He's pretending like you're going to die when you're not really. You're actually going to recover and live several years. So you can never take God seriously. So anytime you're sick, you have to battle against it as if you might get older because God might just be screwing around again.
And he can't wait to get to Elder Bednar. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a decade of just the funnest time we've all had. Are
you saying he's going to shuffle quickly through everybody in order until he gets to President Bednar, perhaps?
Oaks doesn't look good. Holland didn't look good. And then you've got Uchtdorf. And then we're on to Bednar.
Yeah, when we get Uchtdorf up there, the first thing he's going to do at the first general conference is lead the entire church in a chorus of "Tomorrow Belongs to Me." Everybody's going to go, well, what are you doing, President Uchtdorf?
Tomorrow belong to me. That's my best German accent. That
sounded so German. It sounded like you were somewhere in Japan.
Doubt your doubts.
There it is.
That's it. So that's the story. And did you have anything else you wanted to say about this wonderful birthday party for President Nelson, either Bill or Rebecca?
Just happy birthday. I mean, it is something to reach 100 years of age and no other prophet. In fact, Scripture Central did a video about how important this is and how the Lord has preserved President Nelson for this day. And I guess the last prophet that reached this kind of age was Joshua. That's what they said.
Well, Moses made it to 120, so I don't know what all the fuss is about.
Exactly. So, but it is something, 100 years old.
Yeah, get back to me when you're 121.
We may be having a 101st birthday bath next year. You do not know.
No, this guy's going to bury us all. I'm telling you.
I feel like that might be true.
Rebecca, do you have a story for us?
I do. I have a couple media updates because it seems like I've kind of become the entertainment correspondent. I don't know if I watch more TV than both of you or something, but it seems like I know. So,
Rebecca, in this first slide that's up here, the sister in the middle, is it just me or does it look like Shirley Feeney's in this movie? Did she become a Mormon and go on a mission?
Doing it her way. That's exactly right. And again, I doubt anyone knows who Shirley Feeney is except for me.
Everybody knows who Shirley Feeney is.
I'm almost as old as you. So it's possible. But no, these are amazing actresses, and Hugh Grant is incredible. And we've been talking about this as it's, been in the news, but now it's been premiered at a film festival in Toronto, because often before it's released, wide release, which is going to happen in November, they'll take it around to film festivals. So this is our first peek, and it's the critics' first exposure to it. It says horror movie about LDS missionaries gets positive review after its world premiere. Heretic, starring Hugh Grant, had the first ever screening in Toronto International Film Festival this weekend. And the reviews were pretty amazing. It says words like ingenious and brilliant and impressive and fun were used by critics who voiced their first impressions on Twitter, X. Not all the comments were positive, with complaints that the movie is 20 minutes too long. I guess they have that algorithm, 20 minutes attention span, and that the ending is too elaborate for its own good.
That was like my mission.
20 minutes too long.
And too elaborate for its own good.
Oh, but I didn't really realize I don't think we ever podcasted about who wrote this, screenplay, all of this, but it says the movie was written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, the team who co-wrote A Quiet Place. We all know that movie, and tells of two missionaries played by Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets, Chloe East from The Fableman, who visit Hugh Grant's character and find themselves trapped in a deadly questions about their faith. And as I read some of the reviews, exactly what we kind of predicted. It's not like a slasher movie where they're running away and he's got a knife. It's more of a psychological thriller, delving into their ideologies, theism, atheism, just kind of a cat and mouse game more mentally. So I'm really excited to see this. Are you guys planning to see it in November?
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a review.
Absolutely. I was hoping he was going to, at least throw them into some kind of a well that's dug in the basement of his house.
I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying there's not.
Make vests and other clothing items.
Exactly. But it definitely has those psychologically frightening moments like I've described before. They knock on the door, he says, come in. Of course they say, well, I can't. We need to have a woman of the house there. He said, oh, my wife is baking a pie. She's just in the kitchen. Come on in, and they sit down and they talk to him, and they're getting a little anxious, but they can smell the pie wafting out of the kitchen. So they feel okay. Hugh Grant excuses himself, and one of the sisters sees the candle that says blueberry pie. And that's that moment where you just hear the because it's going to get weird from there.
She's cooking from inside the house.
She's cooking from inside the house. Exactly. But again, and we'll show this in a minute, the media statement from the church, they were not happy about a movie portraying missionaries that might be in dangerous or unsavory situations. And so they took this step that I haven't really seen them do it before, where they put out a statement where they not only talked about this movie, but of course the other huge thing that premiered this weekend, Thursday night, Friday, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And that premiered. And actually, if you go back, the picture on the left, that's an actual footage picture of me at the gym with my iced coffee, holding it up, getting ready to watch the very first episode, because I was trying to multitask, work out and watch the show at the same time.
You're an inspiration to us all, Rebecca.
I'm trying to be an inspiration to everybody. That's right. So, and I think I have the church's media statement somewhere here, but we can go into that in a second. So what's interesting is that this all started with something called Mom Talk a couple years ago. And a lot of people don't even know what Mom Talk is. Some of the main characters who are in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives were on this Mom Talk. So I thought, let's show a clip of what Mom Talk is. So if we can just roll that, let's do it.
Si lo pillo por la disco dice, si lo pillo por el área dice,
that's
the
it.
only thing that would make that any better is 2 velociraptors sneaking into the kitchen behind them.
Like that. It almost had Australian breakdancing vibes, a little bit, just a little bit. But yeah, so Mom Talk is empowering for women. It's young, cute, stay-at-home moms who are also entrepreneurs, kind of in my neck of the woods, and they dance in different scenarios, and they, kind of positive energy, positive vibes. So let's go back to the slideshow. The other thing I learned that was really funny is that Mom Talk used to be a place with that hashtag where moms could go to get advice, recipes, ask questions. It was an actual kind of clearinghouse for information. And then suddenly these girls burst on the scene. They take over the hashtag. So I was reading today how some of these other moms who used to just share recipes and advice are like, we got to get our hashtag back. I don't think it's going to happen. I think hashtag Mom Talk is now into the stratosphere. But so what happened is, what's Mom Talk and what is the Mormon mommy mess? So this happened a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. In May of 2022, Taylor Frankie Paul, the young lady there, the self-proclaimed creator of Mom Talk, went on TikTok Live to share that she and her then husband, Tate Paul, were getting a divorce. However, it was not the only bomb being dropped. She and Tate were soft swinging, meaning that they would switch partners with another couple and hook up without going all the way. Taylor claims that she would hook up with other pairings of Mormon in the TikTok community. And in the video, she argues nobody was innocent. Everybody had hooked up with everyone in the situation, but she didn't give any specific names, which caused a dumpster fire of accusations. Because Mom Talk was already popular, then she comes out with this video and everyone thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Well, what typically happens next is there's a deal for a series. And that's exactly what happened here. Although, interestingly, I think Taylor is the only one that's on it that was from that initial swinging scenario. I think the other gals are influencers and other mom talkers who were not involved in that. So the series is not really about swinging. That's just kind of maybe a white elephant in the room that's mentioned in the background. So this was the commentary that I mentioned that the church put out. I won't read it again because we've covered it twice here on the newscast already, but it was really unusual for them to put out a statement where they said, certain things in the media without naming names, don't portray the values of Mormons, Mormon women, don't show what it really is like to be a missionary. But all the rest of us kind of went, I don't know, there is some truth in some of these things that we're seeing in Heretic and what we've seen in the previews for The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So it finally came out on Friday and everybody rushed to watch it. Did either of you watch any of it?
Yet.
I've seen about half of it.
You've watched half of it. That's right.
Maybe
You said
3 or 4 episodes.
Girlfriend had watched some of it. So I think most everybody can understand what it's about. A group of young women. I didn't realize how young they were. I was thinking maybe 30 somethings, but we're talking 22 to maybe 31. So very young, but married, multiple kids, some divorced with kids, and, just following the friend group and the husbands. And the husbands become an important part of the show. So I kind of went on social media and gathered just some posts about this so we can kind of get a sense of what people are saying. A lot of people did binge watch the entire 8 hours this weekend. Believe it or not, it happened. So one post I found kind of gave a rundown, which I thought was good. She says, number one, swinging. If you haven't watched, it's helpful to know that only one of the women in the show was a swinger. That's Taylor Frankie Paul. And the show is not about swinging. It's about the aftermath and rebuilding friendships. The other 2 to 3 swinging women and their husbands in the friend group are not in the show at all, and they aren't even talked about. Taylor, the one swinger who chose to be on the show, clearly regrets it and wants to be religious again, or for the first time, more power to her. So she does express going back to church. Her boyfriend wants to go back to church. That's kind of a theme. We got to get back to church somehow. Seems to be a big thing.
This is the boyfriend she was with that she was swinging on, or her new boyfriend that she was swinging with?
No, yeah, it's there's a lot of different. There's her husband who she's divorced from. There's that guy she quote caught feelings for, and now there's a new boyfriend in the picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to keep track. This is, after all, Utah County and Draper area. So I'm telling everybody, this is my neck of the woods. Like, the places that they show are places that I go. The salon featured is a mile from my house. Where they go bowling, Jack and Jill, a mile from my house. So it's all right there. The spectrum of Mormonism, number 2, is wide in Utah. And I think this is very important, but we're all stuck with each other. Yes, we are. The women in the show all have varying beliefs, although they're all still saying, I'm a Mormon. There's a couple of RMs. Some swear, some drink, some wear garments. But at the end of the day, this is very spot on to what this poster, observe in Utah. And I will add my own voice to that, what I observe also. The poster says, I've got 3 sisters, all the same age as these girls, and each of my sisters matches a different girl on the show as far as beliefs go. It used to kind of kill me as a TBM because I was ultra Orthodox while my sisters drank and got high and got tattoos, but they still went to church and to the temple and considered themselves Mormon. But it is what it is. So I don't know. Are you guys aware of this kind of demographic within Mormonism?
No, I'm not, because I got to hang out with the guys in priesthood. I never got to hang out with the gals in Relief Society.
That's right. You never.
But I was surprised once with my second wife when I went in at some point late in our marriage and closer to the end than to the beginning of our marriage. And I went and I said something about the brethren that they had done. I don't know if it was 2015 or whatever, November, something that horrible, but registering my displeasure. And she looked at me and shocked me by saying, oh, well, I've never really cared what the brethren say anyway.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Okay, number 3, sex positivity. There's one character who gets a sponsorship because these women make quite a bit of money, right? When you're an influencer, products will come to you and say, hey, if you can just, eat my Jammy Dodgers, like Nemo does, although he always says, I'm not a sponsor of Jammy Dodgers, you can get thousands of dollars for doing this. So one of them got a sponsorship from a sex toy company. Her progressive views on sex education for Mormons were awesome. And that's true. She did spend a lot of time talking about empowering women in that way. Unfortunately, the character ends up being unlikable, but that's beside the point, according to this poster. Number 4 observation is judgmental parents is a common theme. And I was more the age of the parents, probably older than the parents. So I kind of related to the parents that were shown. Most of them seem to be extremely active, faithful Mormons who, kind of shaking their head and questioning what their children and their children's spouses were doing. So you have different kind of levels and layers. And I think I identified more with the parents, maybe even the grandparents.
Rebecca, I don't like to talk about it a lot, but I got people coming to me all the time wanting me to promote second anointing paraphernalia, like the picture, but I say no. I say no because that would be making money off of my religion.
Really interesting. Yeah. And they're willing to pay. I don't know.
Lots.
Wow. I've never had anybody approach me with any kind of deal. Although I will say this is amazing. I got my first kind of awesome fan thing sent to me the other day. Oh. You know how we all have Fairview United shirts, right? We were so lucky to receive those from the people in Fairview. And mine, of course, has sleeves. And I never wear sleeves. And I made a joke on the newscast about rolling them up or trying to do something. I received in the mail some wonderful person, you know who you are, had hemmed it, had made it into a porn shoulder shirt for me. So I'm still smiling about that. I think that's great. Very fun.
Nice.
I'm sure you guys get stuff all the time in the mail. I know, but it was a first for me and it was really cool. So, all right. So judgmental parents, number 5. And this is what has turned out to be the most interesting element of the show. The patriarchy is there to check in from time to time. Mm-hmm. This turns out to be an important part of the show that I don't think the church, they didn't speak out against patriarchy in their statement, but this is what people are taking note of. The poster says, overall, it showcases the nuance of millennial Mormonism in Utah, all the little awkward things about living in this corridor with Exmos, PMOs, TBMs. Other than that, it's not art. It's slightly trashy reality show with slightly entertaining drama and some good aerial shots of Utah. True, gorgeous shots of Utah. Beautiful. And they feature a temple in almost every cutaway. I wonder how many conference talks will be focused on this show, the poster said, which I thought was great. So there were several good comments, I thought. Here's another person who said, people have dragged this show, but if it results in more conversation about this topic, then I say it's worth it. Zach, who is a husband of one of the girls, is a great representation of misogyny that the church encourages. I know plenty of active LDS men that act just like him. Not all, obviously, but more than enough. And I think the fact that so many Mormons marry young allows the problem to fester. Whereas the people married later, these toxic dudes might have to do some reflection and have some personal growth. I know the show seems vapid on the surface, but every now and then it has these moments that hit where they really do show the toxic underbelly of Mormonism. And this is very true. When you see the treatment of some of the women, like the husbands who will not allow them to go to a girls' night alone and have to come with them, and the husbands that are upset that they were invited to Chippendales.
Well, they're going to Chippendales, right?
Yeah, the Chippendales, right? These girls don't know they're being taken there. It's a surprise party. They text their husbands, "Oh, I've ended up at Chippendales." And the husbands go ballistic. "I don't even know you. I question your character. I'm taking the kids and going to mom's. I want a divorce." Yeah, that kind of stuff, which maybe most of us would go, "Oh, I understand. We know people like that." But if you read out in the blogosphere, a lot of people didn't understand that and were absolutely shocked at this toxicity and patriarchy on display in the church. Chino Blanco, one of our favorite posters here, says, "I can see why the LDS Church cautioned its members not to tune in. Putting a bunch of controlling husbands on camera shows what the lived experience of patriarchy looks like in real life, and it's obnoxious." So again, I'm saying the church was worried about scantily clad women, or maybe they're drinking, or maybe they're getting a tattoo. What they didn't see is that it would reveal something they never considered would even be seen as a problem. And that is what's happening there. So really interesting. Let me see.
I think maybe the patriarchy in the church is like the water in a fishbowl. And the Mormons swim in it so much, they're not even really aware of it. But when another person who's not in the fishbowl comes by and takes a look, it says, "Wow, that looks like water."
Yep. No, I think you're absolutely right on that. And you can see that. And it's funny because some of the girls, they really do push back, and they try to talk to their friends who are in a more controlling relationship and say, "That's not right." All these girls are the breadwinner in their family, making, $30,000, $50,000 a month, so much money from sponsorship deals. And to have the husbands then say, "Well, I don't know, honey, you shouldn't do that. Can I have my gambling money?" You guys know what I'm talking about.
Tell us about that. You mentioned that to me.
Yeah, one of the
Earlier
husbands.
today. I love
he's
this.
like, "I want to gamble. I want to go gambling." And so he had to ask his wife for money, and she gave him 25 cents. Yeah, exactly. And then he's the same one that said, I'm disgusted by you and your lifestyle, being taken to Chippendales without your knowledge." So yeah, there's some stuff there. And I have to say that this person actually was on all the Reddit boards and the different boards. And she said, "No matter what you think about the show, it's teaching people less familiar with the church that there is an institution. It is an institution full of red flags. I asked people on one of the show's subreddits how it had affected their view of Mormonism, and across the board, people said they thought less of Mormonism now. It brought a lot of awareness about the misogyny, restrictiveness, and judgmental attitudes that run rampant in the church." And the parents are included in that too. Lots of posts say, "I can't believe these parents. They seem so immature, and they're treating their adult children like this." So it's basically just the Mormon dynamic on display, but it's not at all what the church was worried about. So to me, that was really interesting.
It does work the opposite too. So Landon actually made the point here, and it at least it occurs to me that as much as the men in a patriarchy are telling the women, "Shame on you for going to Chippendales," if any grown man turns on 30 seconds of pornography, his wife's telling him he has an addiction, and the bishop's, the wife's dragging him into the bishop's office. So that, to some extent, that does go both directions.
Yeah, I think it does. And I would feel like probably any men that happen to watch The Secret Lives and their wives caught them might right now be being dragged into the bishop's office. I feel like that might count. So one of the greatest things about the show, however, is, of course, it had to show the big drinks of Mormonism, right? I have mine right here because, as I learned from the show, my go-to drink is the same as Demi's. It's a 44-ounce The Fighter with sparkling water. So we're twins, I feel like. But yeah, they definitely made these are really good, by the way. It's not soda, it's sparkling water. So it's very refreshing.
This show brought to you by Swig.
That's right. Brought to you by Swig and all their, very, very delicious sugary cookies. But they made a lot of points like, we don't drink alcohol, yet half the women were drinking alcohol, but the rest of us drink big sodas. And so it was very interesting as they tried to, Mormonism was just kind of exactly what you said, RFM, just kind of the water there. And they would kind of pull it out when it made sense. Like, "Oh, let's go have a baby blessing. And we're not going to invite the girls that aren't spiritual." Although they were all at Chippendales. So how do you count who's spiritual and who's not? But, so they show blessings, they show things like that. So it is very interesting. And I can see why somebody who doesn't know much about Mormonism would think, "Oh, this is a really interesting, like Amish Girls Gone Wild or something like that." So, but the one thing I thought was really interesting as we end on here is that I thought about this last week or the last couple weeks, and I thought about all the different versions of Mormonism that people are living and fully still considering themselves Mormons. So just this last weekend was the Restore Faith Matters conference, right? And this is, I would call, more progressive Mormons. They have speakers like the Givenses or Patrick Mason. I know people that attended. They talk about Mother in Heaven. They pray to Mother in Heaven. There's crystals, energy healing. It's definitely a very progressive branch of Mormonism. And yet here they are. They call themselves Mormons. Same weekend, you have the Secret Lives girls. They're considering themselves Mormons as they sit there at Chippendales. Still a Mormon, right? Sunstone that you were at, RFM. And were you at Sunstone, Bill? No, it was just RFM. Was that 2 weeks ago? No, a month ago. Same thing. You've got progressive Mormons, you've got post-Mormons, you've got faithful Mormons. They're all there learning, studying Mormonism, right? All these things are happening simultaneously, and everybody calls himself a Mormon. Think about what we reported on a couple weeks ago, that Christian festival where the youth are singing and praising. A few years ago, that would not be considered Mormonism. It is now. These are Mormons doing that. And I also had to add the Firm Foundation, which is having a conference coming up. And they tend to be more preparing for the end of days, watching for signs, things like that. More maybe if you could call them prepper. And they consider themselves Mormon. The church didn't really crack down on any of these groups, Sunstone, the festival, the Firm Foundation, Restore. They put out a statement about the secret lives of Mormon wives, and they sent an excommunication letter to Nemo, who's a faithful member who just flew to Fairview, Texas to try to clarify some doctrine there about a steeple. So it is interesting, I think. Any thoughts on that as we end this segment?
I'm going to let Bill jump in because I've been over talking. That's probably why. He's been talking the whole time, but we couldn't hear him.
I watched a few episodes. It feels very drama-ish. Young. Again, I don't mean any offense to these women. I think a lot of people in this age group sort of think and behave this way, but very immature, very self-centered, very focused on their celebrity status. Not really adding a lot of value to the world. But again, I think you would have caught me at, as an older teenager, not so much a young adult. Cause I think when I joined the church, I sort of shifted paths, but as an older teenager, I was thinking very much in these same sort of terms. And I think a lot of young adults do that.
Yeah, well, the least I can say about this is that Cardin Ellis may not know the names of the members of the Relief Society presidency, but I'm sure he's got the names of all of these chicks down.
Probably.
Oh, that's right. I'm in charge. I'm sorry. So is that the end of your story,
That's the end.
Rebecca?
We'll have to wait till next season, right? Because everybody just binge watched 8. Now we have to wait to see what happens next.
I know. TV is so crazy now from when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
There was no binge watching.
There was no binge watching. If you missed it, you missed it. If you had to go to Young Men, Young Women, then called Mutual,
yes.
If you missed it, you missed it.
You don't get to record
stay home
it
to
and
watch
play it back.
Dynasty. Believe
you
me,
might have been able to record it and play it back.
But think about it. In our day, not even that. Not until we were like older, like young adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you really did miss it.
So you just binge the whole thing. You can do it anytime you want. There's no excuse for you to not watch this program. And I expect I'll have to get around to it at some point, just as part of, I don't know, my job. But we will see. And hopefully it's just wonderful and exciting that these young women are living Mormonism on their terms. Okay, so Bill, the next story, and I think it's the final story, is brought to us by Mr. Reel.
Yeah, so I came across an article in the New York Post, came out September 7th, so 2 days ago. What happens when a black cop goes undercover with the Crips and Bloods in Mormon County? And Ron Stallworth, gentleman on your left, black man, he became famous because as a cop, he went undercover in the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. And they ended up he ended up writing his first book covering that, and they ended up making a motion picture out of it. By the way, Rotten Tomatoes, I'm going to have to end up watching this. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 96%. So I think it is a really good movie. Some folks are guessing that was Richard Nygren. That is not Richard Nygren, the first Black apologist. This is a real human being named Ron Stallworth.
Ron Stallworth is a real person.
That's a real person. Yeah. Yes. So we'll move on from Richard Nygren. So he wrote his second book, which is this whole thing that the article is based on. What happens when a Black cop goes undercover with Crips and Bloods in Mormon County? And it is actually, this was the thing from the film. There's a scene from the film of them with them fist up. But the book he just wrote is called The Gangs of Zion, a Black Cop's Crusade in Mormon. And this actually says country. But by the way, the New York Post said county, which is where I got county from.
Okay, I'll look it up. You go ahead.
At this point, I'm guessing the book is correct, and the New York Post editor got it wrong. Okay. So a Black Cop's Crusade in Mormon Country, #1 New York Times best-selling author, because that's from Black Klansman, Ron Stallworth. And the whole premise of the book is that drug dealers from outside of Utah were coming into Utah to take advantage of the gullible Mormon population and sell drugs. Little by little, the Mormon youth and young adults get involved in the drug dealing themselves because the drug pushers need drug dealers. And suddenly what ends up happening is that people start forming gangs. The Bloods and the Crips, the two prominent gangs that most people have heard of, end up playing sort of a major role in Utah. And Ron Stallworth, goes undercover again and infiltrates sort of the drug dealing culture. And what he finds is that, again, there's lots of young Latter-day Saints involved. And so here was a piece out of the article. How did Utah's capital city, known for snow-capped mountains, Karl Malone and John Stockton pick and rolls, and being a hub of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, become a hotbed for criminality? When Ron Stallworth arrived there in 1986 to launch and lead an anti-gang police unit, he saw the answer clear as day. Southern California Crips and Bloods were trekking nearly 700 miles to sell crack cocaine to the Beehive State's devout, mostly white inhabitants, and recruit followers into their gangs. And I just want to note, he went undercover, and it became obvious to him that it was a lot of white, young Mormon men that were involved. And he says, quote, "When I and others in the criminal justice field attempted to sound the alarm about the emerging threat from street gangs, the church would not accept that its faith was failing their children," writes Ron Stallworth in the upcoming memoir, The Gangs of Zion, a Black Cop's Crusade in Mormon Country. So even the New York Times or New York Post got the word right eventually. And so there were a couple other things said. Quote, "No one was willing to see past their religion and accept the fact that when not attending sacrament meeting, these children were throwing Molotov cocktails through windows," he adds. Many parents were skeptical of the anti-gang unit's efforts, accusing Stallworth and his colleagues of biases or ulterior motives. Church officials refused to cooperate, with some insisting only non-white Mormons, probably those Polynesian believers, primarily, is their words, but I threw in probably. Primarily Polynesian believers were the problematic ones. But the most steadfast opposition, and this was another quote in there separate from that one, but the most steadfast opposition came from the police and government officials who would not act on evidence that federally funded vocational youth program called Job Corps had become an incubator and pipeline for the SoCal gang members arriving in Utah. And so sometimes you end up with nonprofits essentially being a cover for other things going on. And in this instance, they had believed, the police force, law enforcement, believed that Job Corps had become an incubator and pipeline for the SoCal gang members who were arriving in Utah. And again, the guy seems to be really good at writing books. The movies that are made on these things, at least his past movie turned out really good. I'll be not surprised to see if this turns into a movie too. I think people are always finding movies that are essentially documentaries covering folks who go undercover kind of like Tim Ballard, they find those kinds of things interesting. And so I wouldn't be surprised. But his second book is out. You can check it out. And if you do want to watch the movie Black Klansman, which was his first episode undercover, I think Apple TV has it for rent for $3.99. But that is the end of my story. Just a little sort of interest story going on with a book about criminal actions happening in Utah and the gangs that are taking over the Mormon youth.
Really, really interesting. I could not help, and that's why I put it back up there, thinking about the same attitude as expressed, or at least as recounted by this individual, Ron Stallworth, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His interactions with the church and what they said to him about their youth. And I can't help but think that this is the same attitude that allows child molestation by adults to run rampant in the LDS Church. When I and others in the criminal justice field, i.e., we know what we're talking about, attempted to sound the alarm about the emerging threat from fill in the blank, the church would not accept that its faith was failing their children. So it's a strange thing, but because the church cannot accept that the church is failing its children, they fail the children more.
When you are the gold standard, there's little need to worry about doing things better.
Yes. Penn Central. We've got nowhere to go but up. That's a dated joke. But anyway, they couldn't go out. They couldn't build out. They could only build up, according to a certain case in law school. Anyway, they had nowhere to go but up. When you got the gold standard, yeah, you got no place to go but up.
And somebody's just informing me that Job Corps is not a nonprofit; it's a federal government entity. So that makes it even more strange that somebody's not actually dealing with it and doing something.
Or we got Job Corps out here. I think it's throughout the government or throughout the country.
I was going to say that I think it's not only the institutional organization of the church that cannot accept that something like this might happen, or child molestation might happen, or abuse might happen, but just your average member. Look at the recent interview on Mormon Stories with the Stick of Joseph, where they started to talk about child abuse. Do you remember this? And then Word Radio kind of picked it up, and they were saying this is not, they completely refuted any of the data that John was kind of trying to bring out. And he later found a graph that kind of showed what he was saying. But, nobody wants to hear that or see that. They want to think that because of our values, the things that we're taught, the things that we're supposed to be doing and supposed to be valuing, that's true. And that's very dangerous, because you don't see things sometimes that are literally right in front of you. And when you do see them, if you're the one that tries to raise the alarm, others don't believe you in that environment. And that's probably the most dangerous combination of all.
Yeah, it's a combination of not being able to, if you're a normal person who's been raised normally, okay, by which I mean that your life has not been impacted by any of this horrible stuff that's too prevalent out there, or your job, your career doesn't deal with that, right? So you're not impacted. You hear stories, you see TV shows, but it is so difficult for the average person to believe that a grown-up is doing something this atrocious to a child, that it is sometimes better, it's never better, but the strategy they use, perhaps unconsciously, is to ignore it because they can't believe that something like that would happen with the same effect. They can't believe the church is failing its children, so they ignore it, so the church continues to fail its children.
Yeah.
So that's my last comment on that. Is that the last story? Are there any other comments from anybody else?
I'm just excited that Bill did a book talk. That was amazing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. That's right. That's awesome. We should do more of those.
That's fantastic. It looks like a great book. And I know that you're very interested in books because you have the longest running post-Mormon book club, don't you?
I seem to have it. We're in our 5th year. It was just a challenge, 4 years ago that said, hey, start a book club. And I did. And there it is. So still up and going. The Good Book Club.
Can you tell the audience where they can find it and what they can do to be a part of it?
I can, absolutely. You can send an email to us at thegoodbookclub@mail.com, not Gmail, but mail. And we'll set you up with the links. We meet once a month on the second Sunday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And there's a book every single month, all voted on by members. And sometimes we even have the author come on, which is really fun. We are reading this next month for October, Armageddon by Bart Ehrman. Oh my gosh. If you want to know about the end of times, what they are and what they aren't, it's a pretty incredible book. You can also find us on Facebook, The Good Book Club.
Very good. Thank you. And Bill, is it time? Should we announce anything? Has a gauntlet been thrown down? October 3rd, Colby Reddish. I feel like I'm doing.
No. You're
pyramid.
good. I have not done anything yet. So buy me another day or two, and then we can make an announcement this week on the other two programs we do.
Okay, on Mormonism Live. Hopefully we can make the announcement there.
Okay, I love it.
All
Thank
right.
you. That was a good reminder to me, by the way. Thank you.
There's an announcement coming, but I mean, we can announce it, right? Because we know everybody is committed to that except for one person, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I know what we're talking about, but I don't know what is safe to say and what isn't safe to say. So,
do you want me to say it?
I think it'd be better if we wait till Wednesday or Friday.
I will be guided by you, my friend.
Okay, that sounds good.
You're so cryptic. Here, I'll give some real information on Mormonish podcast tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I don't even have to check with anybody. I don't have to say anything, all couched and hidden. We are having an episode with the amazing Yvonne Harrell, Charlie Harrell's wife, and we're going to be talking about Sam Harris's book, The Moral Landscape, about science. Can it determine moral values? It's a really interesting discussion. 6 p.m. before the debate, right? Because I doubt anyone's going to be watching any podcast after 7 o'clock.
Well, I tell you what, if you could just hang on to Wednesday, we'll have a really exciting announcement for you one way or the other.
It's a Mom Talk soft swinging party. And no, actually, it's not. So
the Mom Talk. I saw Mom Talk and I thought, that sounds like Rock Talk. You guys ever heard of Rock Talk?
Well, Coffee Talk. Everyone's verklempt.
That's very good. I like that. No, Rock Talk, that was a bit in the skit of the 2,000-year-old man, where Carl Reiner is playing the announcer who's at the airport, and they've just found this man who's 2,000 years old, and they fly him into the airport, and he's interviewing him as he gets off the plane. And the 2,000-year-old man is played by Mel Brooks. And so Carl Reiner, amongst a bunch of different questions, it's like 20 minutes long, it's hysterical stuff, is asking the 2,000-year-old man, is saying, so what language did you use to talk 2,000 years ago? And Mel Brooks is going, what language? Yeah. We talked a lot of rock talk. And Carl Reiner said, rock talk? What's that? Could you give us some examples of rock talk? He says, oh, yeah, sure. Hey, what are you doing with that rock? Put that rock down. Hey, don't throw that rock at me.
Classic. Those guys were classics.
Oh,
absolutely.
Goodness. We should at least say Wednesday. Did you say what we were doing Wednesday night?
I didn't Mormonism Live? That because, you know, I just want to clear everything with you. I'm much more respectful to you, which is I feel how two co-hosts should treat each other instead of just like walking all over Landon Brophy the way Rebecca does.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very bossy. Ask anybody.
Wednesday night, we'll take a look. I think I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying this. We're going to take a look at the John DeLynn conversation with the two Mormons that he interviewed recently. We'll play some clips and sort of talk about that.
The Paul brothers.
Yeah.
I call them the Paul Bearers.
The Paul Bearers.
Which is kind of that's kind of a cool nickname. It's like they're burying the dead person out. Yeah. And they're on the very famous, the up and coming, what's the name of their show?
The Stick of Joseph.
Yeah, which I call the Stick Up Joseph.
Yeah. And then
Joseph with the Paul Bearers.
And then Friday we'll have our next episode of Mormonism After Dark. So bring a beverage and prepare to chuckle and laugh while hopefully learning a few things and being entertained.
Can I tell you something I'm just excited about?
Please.
I finally got Hamlet done.
What an accomplishment. That's amazing.
Thank you. I was so over the moon about it. I did not expect to be as over the moon about finishing Hamlet Act 5 Scene 2, which I did Saturday, and it'll be going up here once it's finished being produced, maybe today or tomorrow. But at least on my end, I've done Hamlet. And I just thought, wow. And now I've got a few other things I can do about Hamlet, but I've gone through the entire play. It's just, it was absolutely a rush. I felt like I had really accomplished something.
Yeah, and it should go out sometime tomorrow. I'm gonna guess maybe I'll finish it tonight. We'll have it post tomorrow, and we can pick the time if there's a time you want it to go out. But I usually set those to go out once I sort of think everybody's up and awake, like 10 a.m. or so.
Absolutely fine. My 15 subscribers are anticipating it.
They're excited.
Thrilled. I saw somebody in the comments just now guess what I guessed,
What?
that your next project might be Macbeth. I wondered.
Look, I say in it just to put down the names of anything that you want me to do, although I do admit in the show toward the end that Hamlet's been kind of heavy and it might be appropriate to do something a little lighter for the next play.
Like Much Ado. There's a lot of good material there.
Well, thank you. The world must be peopled.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think we're about done. And Bill's saying, yeah, we're definitely done. Rebecca, yeah, we're definitely done.
We're done.
It's amazing. An hour and 5 minutes, all the news that's fit to print. Thank you, everybody, for watching and joining us here at the Mormon Newscast. Thank you, Bill Reel. Thank you, Rebecca Biblioteca, for your excellent reporting tonight. Please join us. Please join Mormonish tomorrow at 6 Mountain Time.
Yep.
Mormonism live on Wednesday at 6:20 p.m. Mountain Time, and watch Mormonism After Dark on Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I hope you wrote that all down, because that's the only time I'll get it all straight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Join us next time. Have a good evening. Good night.
President Russel Nelson here, prophet, seer, and revelator. That's a wrap for this week's edition of the Mormon Newscast. We appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Keep the conversation going and stay informed on all things Mormonism. Until next week, wishing you peace and joy. See you next Monday at 6 p.m. on the Mormon Newscast. And please, my dear brothers and sisters, stay on the covenant path.